We all know why we're here. So let me ask you a question then. Why the big secret? Truth seekers were really the true leaders. Keep it grooving, the movement like two-seaters. Turn it up, we're knocking through both speakers. It's time we get the truth from the big secret keepers. Hey, truth seekers were really the true leaders. Keep it grooving, the movement like two-seaters. Turn it up, we knocking through both speakers. It's time we get the truth from the big secret keepers. Hey, break it down, now can you peep it? They're deceiving all the people. Let me ask you, what's the secret? Misinformation and lies, a devious disguise. They want the EMF blast until our brains is fried. Oh, point their beams in the sky. Oh, it's a movie now. This world is all CGI, their plot is truly foul. But we're here to rise up and bring the real. Time is now, truth seekers, y'all know how I feel. Truth seekers were really the true leaders. Keep it grooving, the movement like two-seaters. Turn it up, we're knocking through both speakers. It's time we get the truth from the big secret keepers. Hey, truth seekers were really the true leaders. Keep it grooving, the movement like two-seaters. Turn it up, we knocking through both speakers. It's time we get the truth from the big secret keepers. Hey, why the big secret?
All right, truth seekers, what's going on? It is the magnificent Tuesday, and I am going to do something great tonight, and we're going to have the greatness of a lot of people here tonight. But in the meantime, I want to welcome each and every one of you to Forbidden Knowledge TV, where you are going to get that knowledge. I'm Roderick Martin. I'm the host of the Why the Big Secret podcast and YouTube channel. And first of all, I just want to tell you, I'm located in the Jumbo State where those UFOs come out to play. It's a Texas thing, y'all. So first of all, you could have been anywhere else, but you chose to be right here, right now. And with that being said, I want to wish you good evening, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you may be in the 24 time zones that this YouTube channel shows. And I just want to thank you. But hey, I tell you what, we're going to be the boldest, baffling, belligerent YouTube channel in the world, creating captivating conversations that'll certainly cause controversy. So join me tonight with the greatness of Billy Carson. We're going to be talking about a lot of things when it comes down to the water. So you might want to go get you a drink, because let me tell you, once we talk about this water, you might like, hey, should I drink it? Absolutely, yes. You need water to survive. But anyway, I want to thank each and every one of you. And like I said, we're going to have a great show as well. Now, the rule is put the children to bed, because we talk about things that may cause nightmares. And if you have not fixed dinner, then you got a Texas recipe, and that is some biscuits, some bacon, a little syrup. You can put the woman, I mean, not the woman, but the husband and wives, anybody else who don't believe in UFOs, put them to bed, right? Because at this point, this is what we talk about tonight on Tuesdays, and I'm excited to be here, and we're going to kick this show off right about now. So let's cut this music off and we're going to get into it. Well, anyway, hey, listen, I hope each and every one of you had a great weekend. And if you have not, then we're going to cheer you up a little bit. We're going to have some conversations tonight. We're going to go into a lot of things, but maybe not where you think I'm going to go when we're going to talk about these aliens and extraterrestrials, underwater bases. We're going to really try to do a connection between the two, because right now, I think for me doing some little research, I'm sitting here thinking, you know what, is there a difference between extraterrestrials having underwater bases, or is there a difference between aquatic life forms that, or we calling them extraterrestrial? So we're going to talk about some of that tonight. We're going to go through a few key points, and then we're going to have a wonderful Q&A with the greatness of Billy Carson. And so I'm really excited about that, and we'll get that in. But in the meantime, let me just get everything prepped here for everyone. And Billy, how's it going tonight? And yeah, so basically, we're going to have a great show. I'm going to have a couple of topics tonight and bring you in on a Q&A section. So definitely just want the audience to know that you're here with us. And I think we're going to get into some things that's going to change some people's thoughts when it comes down to, is there a difference between, are we thinking everything in the ocean is extraterrestrials? Maybe they just been there for a long time and they're life forms just like we are, you know? Yeah. And so I think there's some questions from there. But in the first time, I want to thank you again for allowing me to serve the audience here on Tuesday nights as well, being part of the Forbidden Knowledge crew. And so I'm just kind of happy about that. So with that being said, what are your thoughts? So we're going to get into some conversation. You know, I think it's going to be good, and I'll put up some little topics, but I won't, you know, I'll have you to kind of sit back in a little bit, and I'll bring you back once we are really getting into the last little sections, and that'll be in a few moments in a little bit. But in the meantime, I'm gonna throw some things out there, and just excited to be here and working on what I call my 5K super challenge, and that is for the YouTube channel. So what do you think about that?
Oh man, listen. Guys, if you don't know who Roderick Martin is, you need to know. Okay, this man is not only a good friend of mine, but he's powerful. He's got a lot of amazing knowledge, especially when it comes to researching paranormal activity, UFOs, and things of that sort. He was in the Black Knight Satellite Beyond the Signal documentary. Did a phenomenal job in there. So you need to go check out his YouTube channel. We want to get him to 5,000 subscribers. Go to Roderick Martin's YouTube channel. Also follow him on all social media platforms at Roderick Martin. We want to build his account. This man is bringing the wisdom, bringing the knowledge, and bringing it with energy. And of course, you know, we need a more diverse cast of people bringing this type of information to the world, so that we can hear from all different aspects of life, all different genres, all different races, all different perspectives. We don't just want the one perspective. We need to mix it up. We need to hear it from everybody. And so, Roderick, man, I want to say hats off to you for having the courage and doing the deep research and taking the many years you've put into this stuff, man, to be able to make it to where you are now. You've been on quite a few TV shows on, mainstream TV talking about these topics, which is hard to do, as you know. You're in my documentary. You're working on a few more new shows, which are going to be bringing out more of this information. And you have your own new show that is in post-production on Forbidden Knowledge TV right now called Why the Big Secret, an actual TV series, which is in post-production, already filmed. So hats off to you, man. You're doing a phenomenal job. Everyone, please go like and subscribe to his YouTube channel. Make sure you put on that little bell on Roderick Martin's YouTube channel so you can get any notifications when he does go live, because he goes live a lot. All right, so thanks a lot. It's going to be a wild ride tonight, guys, so sit tight, buckle up.
All right, so, man, I appreciate the shout-out. I appreciate the love and of course, you know, our friendship and how supportive you've been. And, you know, it's just been a real ride. You know, I tell people you do everything first class, and that's exactly how you do it. But then on the other side of the friendship, it's first class as well. So I appreciate it, man. So I'm going to get the show started, and then I'll get you back in here for the Q&A section in just a little bit. And, you know, they can follow along, and I think it's going to be good. They're going to really like it. I'm going to go in some directions where someone may not expect to go. Because, you know, but we're going to do it. So I appreciate you, and I'll see you in a little bit.
All right. Peace.
All right. So, guys, we're going to have a great show. That was the greatness of Billy Carson. And you know him. This is the man, you know, and everything else. But I do appreciate him giving me the opportunities to be part of his network and some of the shows, and also just the friendship that we have. And especially when it comes down to these conversations of some of the things that we do. Oftentimes there's not a lot of people who want to go too deep into the water, but we're going to go deep into the water tonight. So first, let me give a shout out to all the truth seekers from Why the Big Secret and the new people from Knowledge that comes over there and watch the channel. Shout out to each and every one of you in the chat room today, but I'm not going to waste no more time. We're going to get down to it. So let me kind of give you a quick overview. Here's some of the things that we're going to be talking about. So if you look over to the left, you'll be able to follow along. And as we get down to where we're going to be reintroducing Billy back into the conversation, the first thing I'm going to do is set the bar and really talk about the oceans and the water and all of these things. And I think that we take for granted, for instance, number one, often people don't know that the earth is covered with 71% water. Okay. So we got a lot of water out there, but one of the things about it is we only explored about 5% of that. We only have. So that kind of leads us in the direction of all things. What is there? Or do we know what's everything there? And I'm going to point a question out tonight, and I'll bring it back up with Billy as we get down to it. Why don't we go looking down in the bottom of an ocean? We spend so much money trying to get off the planet, going into space, trying to seek for UFOs, all these hearings. Let's find out what the UAPs are, when we might have some stuff right now in the water, and it may be a little cheaper for us to get down there. I mean, we don't have the technology now, but do we really want to go down there if we think what's already there from all of the things? And we'll talk about that in just a moment. But one of the things, again, is, okay, I can get into some of the conversations. So let me bring up where we're going to start. We're going to start with these, the Mariana Trench. Now, this is one of the most deep waters that we have here on the planet. In fact, some people say that Mount Everest, if you've heard about that, is supposed to be one of the tallest mountains and one of the roughest terrains that people like to try to trek up to. If you were to even take that mountain and stick it into the ocean, into this particular section, there will still be miles and miles of the tip of this ocean, of the mountain for the water. And that just says a lot when it comes down to it, because that's some deep water. That is some deep water. So let's get into the conversation. All right. So I'm going to give you a couple of 10 highlights a little bit about this area. And the reason I'm setting this up, because I want you to get the understanding. I'm sure some of you know already, this is some deep stuff. This is some deep water. And again, there's a lot of things about it. And we'll touch this with Billy in a little bit, is that this is believed to be one of the most ancient seabeds on the planet. And this thing is approximately, 180 million years old. So again, if we want to go back and look at it, is there a possible life? Is there all kind of things? We've heard of Atlantis. We heard of all these places that don't exist, and we're finding all these remnants in the water. Now, despite that, the question is, do things live there? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, of course. And I'm just finding the right word for that. Yes, absolutely. You know, but we know there are some hostile conditions there. There's lack of light. We got acidic conditions there. And then there's also a lot of things, the pressure of the water. Okay, but here's the deal. They have found, microorganisms. There's found small creatures that live there. And I know you might be saying, Roderick, why are you talking about this? We want to talk about some aliens. And again, I want to set this up for you. There's life form in the water. There's life forms way down there that we can't see, that is in harsh conditions that we as humans cannot even comprehend trying to live in, but they do. But the question is, and if you remember the interview that we did last week with Dr. Nolan, or not the interview, but we talked about it with Tucker Carson, he talked about how octopuses, multiple octopuses, how about that, can possibly have the intelligence to become, using technology. So imagine after hundreds and hundreds of millions of years, what could be down there. And we're going to get into some of that in just a few moments. Now, what they've discovered there, they've already discovered some things. And this was from let me see here. That's the guy went down there in this Challenger, and I have his name here for you. But anyway, he went down there into this deep sea equipment. So they did send some people down to the bottom, and I think it was Jacques Picard. There we go. All right. And him and a U.S. Navy lieutenant went down to the bottom, and this guy was named Don Walsh. And they actually used some equipment, went to some parts of the bottom of that particular area. But once again, they didn't discover anything. But that ties us back to what we're going to be talking about here in a few segments here. And you look over to the left, you can follow along. We're going to get into about these UFOs in the particular coming from space. But let me point this last part out for you before we move on. They talk about the conditions. And in most cases, we talk about the ocean conditions to be dark, okay, very cold. But they also now find out what's surprising, that there's hot water in the ocean. They call them hydrothermal vents that's through trenches. And these things can get up to 700 degrees. Now, don't ask me how something down there, water or hot water, can be moving through there, but that also ties us back into all of these particular stories of center Earth, life in between, the planet there, these caves, Antarctica, all these things that go all the way back to the ocean. All right, so let me take you now. Let's get this thing a little realer here. Let's get about the UFOs into space. Now, we know, and a lot of you may be expecting me to talk about some of the incidents. Yeah, we can talk about the Navy incidents and all the different things that have happened. But if you think about most of all of these UFO videos, the Tic Tac videos, the Nimitz video, all of these ones, these things are found over water. Now, I work with the MUFON organization, and about 2 months ago, they gave a report of UFO sightings here in the United States. And the top 3 states that had the most sightings was California, Florida, and Michigan. Now, that led me to believe at this point that it has to be the water. They have to be around the water. And once we think about it, that most of all our sightings do come out of water, now that changes everything. And now let me tie this in for you as I'm giving you all of these little key points, because we're going somewhere here, okay? I just want you to know we are going somewhere. The whole point I'm trying to make is we make so much havoc about extraterrestrials being all of these coming from space. And we talk about all of the transmedium technology where they can come between water, air, space, and all these things that we don't have a technology to do. Now, when you think about, again, when I pointed out that we're 73% water, now we start thinking about, is it a perfect place to hide? Is these aliens hiding among us? But the story is this, and as we're going to get into the best part of this, there's been other aquatic creatures that have been coming up from the ocean. There has been remnants of things that are saying, hey, listen, there's life forms in this oceans that have some type of human look, human characteristics. And okay, we can talk about mermaids all day long. But once again, I'm going to touch bases on, is there a coherent difference between the fact that we think aliens are living in the water as opposed to UFOs going into the water who's coming from the space? That could be 2 different phenomena. There could be totally 2 different things that we're not looking at. Okay, yeah, we got all the Catalina Islands. We got all the military reports of Tic Tacs and, again, down aircrafts in the water. I'm not trying to go there tonight because that's the fact. We know that there's UAPs flying around. We got all the government instances of that. I want to go a little step deeper because there's obviously a big secret, and we want to know why the big secret, that we don't explore the ocean. There's a reason we don't go down there looking for what we know is there. There is a big secret reason. Now, do I have all the answers for you? No, but we're going to talk about that tonight as we go further. But there is a big reason to why most of all the UFO sightings with the Navy, not the Air Force, with the Navies, are coming in and out the water, okay? And so it's like we know where they are. We know where they are. But you don't hear that in the government. You don't hear that in the congressional hearings, that we're going to make some type of deep sea exploration team and let's go down there and find these aliens that we know is down there. We got USOs. Okay, we know what that means. Underwater submersible objects. We know that. We have Navy reports of looking at radar blimps and saying, hey, listen, something is flying by that we don't really know what it is. And absolutely, it comes out. I'm going to talk to you about a story there was these Russian stories, and let's kind of get into that right now, and I'll kind of go into it now. There was a team of Russians that went into, and they called it the lake. Let me see here. I got my notes. Pactel incident. Anyway, so you probably know, and I'll get to it. But they had went into the ocean, and this is what they saw. They ran into these particular extraterrestrials on their expedition that was swimming in the ocean. And look at this, guys. They're not using scuba gear. They're not trying to have some type of mechanics that we have to take oxygen underneath the water. Supposedly, they have these particular types of whatever this thing is over their head, but this was a well-documented incident back in, I think, the early 19. No, let me shut this off for you. But this was the early documented incident. And now, it didn't turn out well for all of them because they did try the stupidest thing, I think, was to try to catch one of those extraterrestrials. And then they used some technology that ultimately landed some of these people, or 3 out of 7 died actually from this incident. And where I'm going with this once again is this is proof. Now, I can't tell you that these particular extraterrestrials are living in that particular environment, or they simply there and came from space. Now, once again, we got that. So I just want to point it out before we get into our detailed conversation with Billy, because I got a lot of questions for him to add some things on there as well. Now, one of the things that I want to point out to you as we get ready to get down to this is think about some of the questions that I'm going to pose to you tonight. All right, as we go down this particular journey, I want you to think about all of the news that you hear, all of the stories of extraterrestrials coming in and out our water, all of the Navy videos, you know, all of the underwater things that the government does, and we're trying to, all the technology. And then we're going to go down this path. Once again, I've said it before, we're going to go down a path about the life forms, okay? Because I'm telling you, that is a big difference. And I don't think a lot of people have enough conversations when we go down there. So, all right, so let's move into, again, a little theory of some of the underwater bases. And I'm going to give you some statistics about that. And one of the things that you hear about all the time is all the particular incidents. And I have a list of them here for you. You got the Nimitz. You got the report of the U.S. Omaha incident. Now, this is one of the Navy commanders. He talks about the UFOs, and I think it was more in the helicopter incident. We talk about some of the orbs recently that Jerry Campbell reported, of the orbs, fireballs following Navy ships and then disappearing into the oceans. We talk about now we can do contrast to the secret Navy submarine bases that they're building. But like I said, I think this is insignificant for us. Why do we want to care about the Navy? At least I don't, about them building an underwater base. And once again, all it tells me, though, is they're there. They know what's down there. They know what's in this water. But why is it we do not go down and explore the oceans, which is still be a lot easier than us spending money trying to get off the planet, going into space, going over to Mars? And that just tells me that they just might know. They don't really want to go, the government, the big secret keepers, once we go down that path for there. So a little bit, I'm going to show you a couple of pictures here. And there was a video that surfaced not long ago about a scientific guy. And for a moment, I had to kind of do some back checking for it. And you've probably seen it on one of the documentaries where they was out in the oceans, and then they was pretty much something came across the screen and it slapped the front of the other submarine craft that they was in, and you can kind of see it. Now, that was supposedly been a real video and a real incident that spurred from some creatures that actually came up on the bank in South Africa, which sent this team over there to explore, and they actually saw this particular creature in the water. So I'm going to show you some video clips of that. But one of the things that came behind that was the South African government immediately shut down all underwater mining and all that after this surface, as though, once again, they were surprised that, hey, these guys discovered something down there. Now, I can go back into all of the old conspiracy of Plum Island. Have you guys heard of that? And this is where there was supposed to have been all of this test subjects and things that are going on, and they made movies about it, and you get all these weird creatures, and supposedly they are washing up on the beach. And this is where some of this particular pictures pop up, where you get these mystery animals and things like that. This came up on the beach, but I can't explain a woman finding this particular picture. This is true and real, and this showed up on the beach, to where, look at this thing. Now, this could be over time something that's making a big change, and one of the things about it is these creatures exist in our oceans, and now some of these things are taking on some real human forms, like this particular creature here. And then, like what we're getting ready to get into, that I want to show you a couple of videos that I think is going to, I don't know if they're totally, and maybe the audience can find out. I just found them, and I thought it was pretty weird to see. So let me kind of show you this particular first clipping of this particular video here. Now, this is supposedly been some sea creature. Now, for a moment, I said, okay, wait a minute. This is probably some people that have some great skills when it comes down to making some fake items, until I start looking closer at the video. And now we see this thing actually begin to breathe at some point. And I'm like, okay, wait a minute. Now maybe they're practicing this. Maybe they're not. So maybe some of you saw this particular video or not, but I'm going to show you the final video of it. And the reason I'm showing it is, and I'm going to tie it into some other stuff that people have found on our oceans that make you understand, wait a minute, is this something that's really happening? And I don't really have enough information that I want to go into the mermaid side of things, because again, this is one of those mystical creatures that's out there. But then there's a lot of people that have had video, they have posted video on YouTube of encounters, true mermaids encounters, which will tie back into this next segment that we're talking about with this video, with the people that was exploring the ocean. So you definitely want to check that out. Pretty much. So basically what I'm doing, just let you know, is setting it all up to take you in a whole different direction. I know, again, most people came here tonight and say, listen, we want to talk about some of this military stuff. No, I think we passed that point. Really, we are past the point about military bases underwater. Now we can get into extraterrestrial and alien bases, absolutely. But then there's other life forms there. And I want to make sure that we have a distinct idea that there's possibility that there's ancient life forms there, as opposed to extraterrestrials visiting us, living and hiding there, that they may not be aliens. What do we call them? And we'll get into that moment, because I think that's something that all of us should be exploring, because it's just a pretty interesting topic to begin in with it from there. So let's get into the aquatic life forms, okay? And let's get into this particular video clip of these people that was doing an exploration. So I want to show it to you first. But first, let me just tell you, when it comes down to the ocean, this is one of the main things that we think is the most feared creature out there in the ocean, will be a shark, okay? We see this all the time, okay? We see great white shark movies, Jaws, and all that. But now we begin to think, oh, wait a minute, there's something else there, especially when it comes down to all of the stories that we're hearing, that we now have aliens and UAPs and all of these things that are in our oceans, and to lead us to the fact that saying, okay, wait a minute, there is a possibility, once again, that the extraterrestrials is not the only thing floating around down there that's alive, that looks like a human, that has possibly technology. And of course, once again, we are not sure what's down there, because we have never been and explored only 5% of our oceans. And yet we spend so much time with all of our military and everything we have to take us off the planet. All right, so I just kind of set that up, and the reason I did that, just to throw some facts out there, And we're going to bring Billy into this conversation just a moment now. And the whole point is to do a deep dive into the significance of both of these. And I just want to kind of throw it out there. The ocean is deep. So you seen it up there about the Mariana Trench. Yeah, we know UFOs are coming from space. I didn't have to inundate y'all with all of the stories about that. Tic Tac videos, you've seen all of that, and I think it's got to be a little more deeper scenario. Yeah, we know we got underwater bases for our military. It makes sense. Why not? We got submarines sitting out there all over the place, floating around with nuclear powered weapons. So that is nothing new to any of us. What we don't know is further down in that ocean, who else is down there? Who else is living there? Who else got bases there? And then on the flip side of that, once again, what are we going to do? So I'm going to, at this point, bring Billy into the conversation because, again, this is where it's going to get deep. This is where the conversation gets real once we get into this. And all the stuff that I said, you can kind of like, okay, now let's get into some of the real conversations with that. Billy, glad to have you back. And I just kind of threw some of that stuff out there because I got more questions for you, which I think is going to inundate the audience more anyway. Okay. And jabbering on for the first 30 minutes, setting that up was intentional because I wanted to get people to get a different viewpoint past the narrative of, okay, what is there? Who's hiding? Not so much who's hiding, but okay, we got extraterrestrials coming in and out this water. We know this. This is old news, okay? We know that there's places that we can't see and get down to. So why wouldn't a higher intelligence know that is the perfect place to hide? Now, I use the word hide, Billy, but maybe they're not hiding. Who could have been there all of this time from that? And so I'll let you kind of open it up with more of what I call the ancient aquatic civilizations, because you and I talked about that a little bit of maybe some life forms heading that way. So just take us into that.
Well, there's quite a few I would say, historical handed down verbal accounts of these beings being aquatic. And it's really interesting that if you look into the ancient Sumerian tablets, you find that some of these quote unquote gods had aquatic bodies. So they had the head of a man, but the body of a fish. You see the Dogon tribe out of Mali, Africa. They were the original inhabitants of the land of Kem before it was called Egypt, pre-dynastic era, and then eventually were forced out, but ended up in Mali, Africa. They still kept all of their historical information, all of their the things that they were taught by the nomo. They call them the nomo, Nommo. And the nomo basically claimed to hail from Sirius B, which is a star system, a trinary star system, light years away. And so according to their ancestors and their handed down verbal history, which they still keep intact today, the nomo came from Sirius B, which is light years away. Think about that. So we're talking about traveling at least at a percentage of the speed of light, or maybe traveling through a portal or a wormhole to get here. But they brought them a significant amount of wisdom and knowledge, but they were aquatic beings according to the Dogon. They had the ability to live in water. They were aquatic. They actually depicted them as having bodies of fish, a fish body, which is pretty interesting. And so these beings gave them information, celestial information on our solar system. They taught them the shapes, the sizes, and even the colors of all the planets in our solar system long before we even became what we call an advanced civilization. They even knew the location or know the location of Sirius B and the trinary star system precise orbit long before we, as what quote unquote modern civilized people, were able to develop technology to even detect a failed star like Sirius B, which is a white dwarf. We can't see it with the naked eye. And then to even know the orbital period and the orbital cycle and the orbital momentum. They knew all of this, and they still know it all. They know all the planetary alignments. I mean, the amount of information and wisdom they have, the celestial information that they have, is immense. And they got it all from these fish people that live in the water. Another thing is if you look into the Sumerian tablets, you find Poseidon. Now, Poseidon is the other name for who? One of the Sumerian gods, right? So you have the Sumerian god Enki and Enlil, and they're brothers. But Enki and Enlil have many names in different cultures. Depending on which culture you're addressing them in, they have different names. And what's interesting is that Enlil was actually Poseidon. And so he had, the power over water. And he had the ability to build a kingdom in the Apsu, which was this water kingdom. So, I mean, and the list goes on and on. If you want to go into the 1700s or 1800s, look into what we call more modern times, right? Just look at, for example, I would say, well, let's look at before that, Christopher Columbus. Christopher Columbus documented, this is a pretty interesting thing, on at 10 p.m. on October 11th, 1492, Christopher Columbus claims to have seen a glimmer in the distance as he stood on the deck of the Santa Maria. He was saying it was a faraway flash of an object that came up out of the ocean. Now, you got to remember, back in those times, there were no lights. There's no light pollution. There's no electricity, no light bulbs, definitely no airplanes or anything else, no drones. So when a captain of a ship makes a claim like this and writes it in his actual captain's log, you have to think it's as close to the truth as possible, or an accurate description or depiction of what he saw as possible. So this is pretty interesting to see a UFO, a USO, come straight up out of the ocean in front of the Santa Maria and fly up into the sky and then eventually disappear from sight. So maybe it went into space. So it begs to ask the question, are these beings, did they come here in ancient times and create a breakaway civilization on Earth? Maybe creating some type of an offspring here that still exists today and it has still advanced levels of technology? Or could it be a combination of extraterrestrials that came here and created a breakaway civilization underwater, and there also were still some marine life that had developed the ability to become what we would think to be more sentient and start to develop, human-like characteristics, but remain underwater? I think it's probably a combination of both. This is a lot of, it's a lot of information to swallow all at once.
One of the things we're going to talk about, I'm going to show this little clip about the expedition crew and how whatever it was hit their vehicle while they was underwater. And let me kind of play that a little bit here. Let me.
We're with former NOAA biologist Dr. Paul Robertson and joined by Dr. Torsten Smith.
Now, one of the things that they did in this, and I got another close-up clip, Billy, is supposedly it all started, again, and I mentioned it before you came back, was that there was some type of creature washed up in South Africa. These guys went over there doing an exploration, and all of a sudden, this is something that popped up across, and the hand of this thing had 5 fingers, but webbed as though it lived in the water. And they was pretty shocked. And so I checked it out. Some people say, oh, no, it's from a document, but this was actually a true story. And the government got behind it and shut them people down so fast after that. So, and I'm going to show this clip again in a little more closer fashion, and we'll get into that. Then I have a big question for you in just a second. Right there, and I just did it real quick. I want y'all so you know the emphasis, and I'm going to show it again. And if you look again, you're going to see not only the hand, but whatever this thing swam away that was human looked like, okay? It looked like a human. Let's go right here. So, Billy, when you were talking, and it sounded like we almost have several civilizations here. We have the water, which could be a whole totally different. We know it's an ecosystem. It has its own life, but it almost like there's beings that are aquatic life forms that now could possibly still be there after all this time, because obviously most of them can't live above the surface because they don't develop and evolved that they need water and oxygen coming through, however that works. Just as much as we up here, we can't live there. Okay. And then we're not going to go what's in the earth as well. So how is all this possible in one realm that we have all of this particular possibility that there's life within our oceans, which we don't really focus on that as humans because we just think we're all that exists. And now we got life coming away from the planet. What is really happening, and what is the big secret of all of this to where we don't connect all the dots at this time?
Well, they've done a great job of suppressing information to the point where you hear little tidbits here and there, but we can't hear enough to put all the pieces together. So what's happened is the information is so disjointed, we can't correlate everything and come up with a big picture and see what's really going on. They've done a phenomenal job. They, meaning, of course, the military-industrial complex, the governments of the world. I mean, all those elite rulers have done a phenomenal job protecting and keeping this secret. And the reason why is because once we discover that we're the new kids on the block, that we just arrived here amongst a vast array of other sentient life forms, then we're going to start asking a lot of questions. And specifically, we're going to want to know, what can we do to communicate with these beings, to find out what types of technology they're using and why we don't have access to that technology. Also, are you taking advantage of any of these creatures or beings, these advanced peoples, whatever they may be, in any kind of way? Are you damaging? Are you trying to eliminate them or erase them, eradicate them? Is it a genocide going on? All these things become a lot of big questions that they don't want to have to answer. It's best to keep us dumbed down, stupid, fighting each other, and worrying about how we're going to make our next bill payment. And as long as they can keep us doing that, they got us exactly where they want us. And then they can continue to hoard all the real knowledge and convert that knowledge into power.
Wow. And that goes back to, and actually you sent me that video. So what do you think about that when you saw it?
Oh, that video shocked me. Of course, we can't play the full clip because we can't lose the monetization.
That's why I like clip real fast.
Yeah. The reason why he's clipping it real fast for all you guys out there who's watching is because obviously you don't want to have to, there's a copyright. That's an actual real copywritten video. It's original, authentic. It's been verified. It's something that really happened. They went down into the deep sea, deep ocean. And this thing came up to the submersible, came right up to the window, put its hand on it, and actually showed its face for a second before it swam off at an incredible speed. And it looks humanoid. In other words, it's a bilateral, bipedal type of a look. In other words, it looks like it's got legs and arms, and even though the feet and hands are webbed, it's got a head that's similar to a human head and a body that's kind of similar to a human torso. Interesting. And so it scared the heck out of these oceanographers and these geologists and everybody else that were on the inside of the submersible, and they were like, "What in the world did we just see?" And I'm glad they caught that because it shows us that there's something down there. There's probably an entire civilization down there that's living right amongst us. And this Earth is so huge. People don't really understand, I don't think, how large this planet really is. I mean, I've been on flights that last for 30 hours. You know what I'm saying? So just think about that. I've been on a 30-hour flight before. And that was only to go halfway around the planet. And so we're talking about a huge planet, and human beings, as we know it, only occupy the surface. So we're like little tiny dots on the surface of this huge, massive object. And as you go down many layers, you have nothing but all different types of possibilities for all sorts of life, exotic life, or things we would consider to be exotic to live. And then you add the oceans to it. I mean, in the Mariana Trench, you can put, Mount Everest in there and still have hundreds of feet left over. That's how big that trench is. Yeah. So we don't even begin to understand what's down there.
And I think people don't realize that, and they may, that really is just something that as humans or our government, the big secret keepers, I call them, really just kind of stay away from. Yeah. And they don't put money behind some of these scientific expeditions. They don't do that like they do with everything else. But yet I think they all have a clue that the UAPs, the people from outer space, hide in those oceans. But I think there's something else there that they know, because again, once it's the life forms, it's life forms, and I think it is a huge disconnect from people think that it's just where the aliens are hiding versus are there other life form that we think is the aliens, but could be ancient life forms that actually live there, been there, and now we got three sectors here. We got us, them, and the people coming from somewhere else.
Right.
All of us looking at this big planet in which, once again, we only explore 5% of our oceans, and we don't even have nothing technology wise except for a few things that can even go down there and survive the pressure of the ocean. So my next point to this, Billy, for you is to let's tie into the importance of where people need to understand that this picture is getting bigger by the day, right? Okay, yeah, I investigate UFOs, and that's obviously sometimes get really boring looking at photos. All right, okay, I've seen a ton of video. Oh, I know what that is. That's a drone. But then you start thinking, all right, who's occupying them? Okay, we're going there. All right, now we know there's some things coming out of space, and now we have all of this technology. And so my ultimate question once again is, are we afraid to truly go down there? Is something stopping us from going down there, you think? Why don't we go?
Well, first of all, it takes a lot of money and funding to get these private projects to go down into the deep and the super deep. And so there's not been a big push for this by the people that have the money and the power to allow these things to happen, by the independent researchers at universities and so forth, because these people at the top, they know exactly what's down there already. And they don't want independent people discovering these things. I remember when the Baltic Sea anomaly was discovered.
Yep.
This object, which looks like, the Millennium Falcon from Star Wars, in the bottom of the Baltic Sea. You can see the 1 mile skid mark until it hit where it hit the bottom of the seabed and it came to a complete stop. And I was actually in a documentary about this object. And right away after these divers from a ship that was looking for different treasures, they hunt for treasures in the seas and the oceans. They spent a little bit of time exploring the Baltic Sea anomaly and came back with a lot of information and evidence about this thing, a lot of great images and photos as well. And within 2 weeks, NASA contacted them and then gave them a gag order. All right. Gave them an actual gag order, which they followed for a little while. And then eventually the captain of the ship was like, why am I following a NASA gag order? He said to himself, like, why would I, what can they do to me? So he said, forget this. And they went back for a second trip. They raised some more money, went back again and got a piece of this actual object down there for study and testing, and got some more incredible images. Actually, 2 giant vessels down there at the bottom of the Baltic Sea. And so they just ignored the gag order. It's like, what are they going to do? I mean, really, he came to that assumption, and actually they did nothing. There was nothing they actually could do. And I think it's better that he did go public with it, because if they would have done something to him, everybody would have known where to point the finger to anyway. But his team has gone back and researched this thing extensively, and this object is it's not a natural formed rock. It's an actual piece of technology, most likely some type of ship. We don't know if it's a ship that maybe flies under the ocean or goes into space, or is it something that came from space to under the ocean, or something that was blown or had a battle above Earth and then crashed into the ocean? We don't know. But there's just so much down there that once we start exploring, all these things come to light. And when they come to light, it exposes the fact that the religious systems that we have in place, they're going to be questioned and torn down. The financial systems are going to be questioned and torn down. The technology systems in place, questioned and torn down. Why? Because people are inquisitive. And once we start finding that we just arrived here as new species, basically 200,000 years ago, and there's more advanced civilizations that have existed long before we were even alive, before we took our first breath, we're going to realize that everything that we thought in terms of our belief system is nothing but a fabricated lie. And the religious system is a multi-trillion-dollar control system. That's gone. The political system is a multi-trillion-dollar control system. That's gone. The military-industrial complex, multi-trillion-dollar control system. That's gone. And so what they'd like to do is just keep us preoccupied with each other, worrying about the color of our skin, worrying about how we can pay our bills and feed our children. And then they love to poison us and put a lot of toxins into us so that we can't even think straight. And that's the objective, in order to keep us away from one of the biggest secrets that on this planet, which is what is under the water.
Man, and you know what? I had an opportunity while you was talking. I was trying to look through my phone. I actually had a 2-hour, 3-hour phone call with one of the guys from that Ocean X team, one of the head explorers, and he actually was on Clubhouse. He came into one of my rooms, and then we ended up talking late at night. And I actually got his cell phone, and we were supposed to do a interview. So we might do that and bring him on here because he has a lot to say. And he was going down that avenue where they couldn't figure out why they had the restraints that they had. And he was like, wait a minute, the ocean is open to everybody. We wasn't in nobody's jurisdiction, so they couldn't tell us what to do. And he said it was so much red tape and people coming after that anomaly that it was just crazy. And but just like again, though, with the guys that we just showed that handprint, the government stepped right in from them and shut every drilling and everything down from those areas. And once again, it's the big secret, what's in our waters. Yeah. And I've, like I said, I've always thought about that, Billy, because, you know, again, we talk about extraterrestrials and okay, we know they're coming in and out of the water. They got transmedium technology. We just don't have that. Okay. Yeah. But you asked the question of why, what's the big secret? What are they hiding? So let's go back to something that just popped into my head when it comes down to, so why do we have these stories of mermaids? Okay. What do you know about that? How mystical is this? And how does that story play with the history when it comes down to the water stories is what I'm going to call it.
Well, the mermaids link back to what I was talking about earlier. They link back to these mermen, these nomo beings. It was not only the Dogon tribe that had mentioned these, but also the Zulu tribe had also mentioned these beings. So we're talking about two African tribes that came in contact with these mermen, these men that had the capability of being transmedium. They can be up here with us in the atmosphere, but they had to wear special suits. But primarily, they like to stay in the water. And so the whole mythology of mermaids came from these ancient stories, handed down verbal histories from the Dogon tribe and the Zulu tribe out of Africa, which is incredible. And so much later on, as you know, mythology turns into fairy tales, and then we're taught that these are all just, mystical and stories that didn't really happen. But in true reality, in all myths, there's also a lot of truth. But it just takes, how close can you get to the actual truth? You have to really dig deep and go into the ancient tablets and the ancient texts, and then you find out the source of mermaids.
You know, you hitting it, and it still sends me into this whole thought process is how have all this been forgotten? How then what makes it forbidden knowledge these days, right? And then at the same time, we still get little pictures though. People, there was a video I saw that they actually had, and it was a pretty clean video with something sitting on the beach, a rock. They thought it was a walrus or something, and then it jumped into the water. And then I'm like, okay, that's fine. Let me look at it again and again and again. We do this. So just like the UFOs, though, just like extraterrestrials who seem to have some type of behind the scene plan that they don't want us to know they're there. Do we think these aquatic life forms are running down that same parallel where they just feel that we can't handle the fact that there's something beneath this water? Because it appears that if anything with history, why don't they just walk up on out of the water and show themselves just the same thing as we want these extraterrestrials, just land a plane and get out and say, hi, I'm Roderick Martin from jumbo state of Texas. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, if they have the slightest bit of intelligence and they have the capability of at least observing what we've done in the oceans with these submarines and these nukes and these intercontinental ballistic missiles that we can shoot from nukes, from these marine vessels that have the capability of striking any planet, any continent on the planet, as well as even sending out strikes against nukes. All the nuclear testing that we've done in the oceans and the waters, all the bombs we've tested inside of the waters and oceans. We've done sonic testing, which has destroyed the sonic hearing of life under the oceans, like whales and killer whales and dolphins. We've really damaged a lot of them with these different types of sonic weapons that we've tested. We've done so much damage. And then, of course, all the pollution. I think if they have the slightest bit of intelligence, they'll realize coming up and trying to talk to us is probably not a good idea, because they'll probably be killed or put into some type of a laboratory or even worse. So they think it's probably best for them to stay where they're at, maintain their civilization the way that they maintain it. If they're the ones that can come and go, continue to come and go unannounced, and just do what they do versus trying to communicate. I mean, I think it's the same way with just even standard UFOs. A lot of people say, well, why don't they just land? And if you land a UFO at the White House, you'll be struck with so many weapons within the first few seconds. You know, what you landed in won't even exist anymore. Neither will you. And they know this. I mean, we're a very volatile, hostile species. And when I say we, I don't mean the general population, the 8 billion of us.
Right.
It's really only a small amount of people that make these crazy decisions, and we allow them to do it. So in a weird kind of way, we're in collusion with these psychopaths because we sit back and be quiet or participate in their actions, either by paying our taxes or by joining their militaries or their forces or whatever they are, or just not saying anything, not speaking out. And so because of that, we are in collusion. But the ultimate decision comes from this very small group of psychopaths that want to attack and destroy and steal everything that comes to this planet. They want to knock these UFOs out of the sky and steal their technology. They'd like to attack these USOs and try to figure out how they work so they can incorporate that USO technology into Navy technology, which I'm sure they've already been working on. It's all about how can we steal the tech and weaponize it? How can we steal the tech and monetize it? And this is all what their whole agenda is all about. It has nothing to do with finding out how to free humanity and free mankind from its bonded chains of hard labor. It's all about how can we keep our boot on their neck and gain more power over them as well.
You know, you said it right there. You know, I tease all the time, and people sometimes laugh and like, oh, Roderick, what you talking about? And, you know, because there's this faction of people who feel that even from the extraterrestrials' perspective, they're going to come and save the world. They're going to come and rescue the planet, or they're already here trying to rescue the planet. And I'm saying, wait a minute, there was probably an expedition that did show up to save the planet. And I've used this example 100 times, and no different than, yeah, we all as audience is sitting on the board of Exxon, and we all into the oil trade. We billionaires. Mm-hmm. ET come from space. He's coming to save the planet, to get us off of oil, talking about saving climate or whatever. He walks in that room. Here is the recipe for free energy, everyone. How long before we all be so happy and then everybody look at each other and say, he can't come out of there alive? He cannot, you know what I mean? He's not coming out of there alive. Right. And then what do you think the next crew that get the message that these dummies on planet Earth killed the last ambassador trying to save Earth? You know what I'm saying? There's nobody else coming, guys. They ain't sending nobody else. Who's going to sign up for that mission with the technology and higher intelligence to come here? So, right. And it's no different than this picture right here. Let me bring it up. These Russians saw this in the water. This does not look like, okay, now all of a sudden they wearing this type of outfit. So obviously I would assume this is extraterrestrial from somewhere else because it don't have the fish features, I would assume, right? But here's the deal. They tried to capture one of these fools. They tried to throw the net over this, and then they get hit with some sonic boom, blast them all up out of the water where they decompressed too soon because you have to, you know, the scuba diving gear.
Yep.
and 3 or 4 of them died. The other 4 had severe critical injuries because once again, now think about the next time that group of aliens or whatever they were, aquatic life forms, run across another group of humans down there. What do you think they're going to do now? Right. So it's like we're asking for this thing, but at the end of the day, it's just not happening. And I think it's the same for everyone else. And so you hit it on a bud, man. And it's like, this, they know we some crazy people here.
So, yeah, they know. Listen, when they fly by this planet or they swim by, they say, man, this is, Earth is a ghetto. I mean, they know this planet is an absolute ghetto. We as a human beings on this planet, we have a lot of growing up to do, man. A lot of growing up to do. I mean, we still killing each other over a chicken sandwich, I mean, just dumb stuff. And we're getting better consciously, but we still got a long way to go. And anybody who thinks it's going to happen tomorrow is kidding themselves. There's a lot of work to do here consciously, psychologically. Mental health is a real problem on this planet. And so there's a lot of work. We have a lot of work cut out for us to help educate and help these people find a way to heal themselves, not take medication, but find a way to really come out of the stupor that we've been put into from all the negative programming and toxins and everything else. And then, of course, all the suppression doesn't help, because once you got somebody, bent over the table, and then you got all the suppression and all this wool over their eyes, they can't even see straight. It's a perfect combination for deception, and it creates ignorance, and that ignorance then eventually turns into anger, and anger turns into hate. It's just a poisonous, toxic combination that they discovered works to keep us so low and in such a low vibration, while they, explore the oceans possibly without us, possibly even trying to make communication, or maybe even out into space. We don't know what they're up to. They're up to so many sneaky, what they call black projects, using our money to do it. It's just really unfortunate. But eventually, we will realize what's happening to us, and we will eventually take back control of this planet.
That's one of the things I tell people. I said we need to start this movement, hashtag UFO taxes, right? Because if you don't know where the money is going, it is definitely, and if you start, hey, I want to know where the money is going, we might get a few answers from the big secret keepers, which is the government, But I got a question, and you said something, and I don't want to take us off the box a little bit, but when it comes down to all of this and they and us not really understanding, personally for me, I feel that there is a disconnect, especially when it comes down to our community. Being, I always say your eyes are useless when your mind is blind. It's time to think why. That's my tagline for the community. And I think a lot of people are like that. I mean, they just can't believe what they see because their mind is too closed, or sleep, or whatever we want to call it, to understand that there's something different. And my thing is, why is that when it comes down to all of this in our community? And I know you do a good job, and I'm just taking us off just a little bit, but I'll get us back on a detour here. But you do a lot of educating everyone. And again, I'm not segmenting the audience here. Of course, we know we got a diversified group here, but my personal experience as being an African-American, that a lot of these conversations is really tough and hard, even to turn around and tell somebody, hey, there's something else living in our water. Okay.
Right. Yeah.
Oh, by the way, there's something else coming from over there hiding in the water. Oh, by the way, there's something that could possibly come through these walls when it gets ready. We just can't see it in the dimension that it is. But yet we believe in fairy tales of Casper the Friendly Ghost, which is stuff that I watch. We believe in mermaids. We got cartoons. We got all of this. And it's like they make these things up for us to see and buy, and not buy into, but to buy. Then all of a sudden on the other side, you can sit down and talk to somebody and say, hey, man, there is some life forms coming out. Oh, man, I don't believe that. That ain't nothing else out there. You can't even breathe down there. You think? But that don't mean what's living there can't breathe there.
Right.
What is the disconnect? And I can go into religion if we wanted to, but why is it that there is a disconnect, even from communities to communities, when it comes down to this whole phenomenon?
Well, there's a couple of things. First of all, I want to correct myself from something I said earlier. I think I said that Enlil was Poseidon. I meant to say Enki. Enki is known as Poseidon from the
That was
Sumerian.
their father, right?
Yeah, Enki is the brother of Enlil.
Oh,
The
yeah,
father I knew, but I had a little brain twitch there. It's actually Enki, Enki, who actually the earth is named after him. That was the Sumerian god known as Poseidon. But anyway, back to what you were just saying. I just want to make that correction. But back to what you're saying. So basically, you have to understand what they've done is a great job of creating a systemized, institutionalized matrix on this planet. And so this matrix has us set up from birth. And the first thing they realize is from the age of birth until 7 years old. So from day 0 to year 7, they know that they have that opportunity to take advantage of programming us. And we know that from neuroscience, and this is something I studied when I was taking classes at MIT for applied neuroscience. In that first 7 years, whatever comes in creates the person that you're going to be for the majority of your life. And once that 7 years of information is locked in, it's very, very difficult to change or alter that person's belief system, personality, even their perspective on things. And so imagine you're born into the civilization, and then right away what happens, you're given a name, a race, and a religion, and now you got to spend the rest of your life defending a false identity. Then on top of that, you have all the programming coming in from TV. All right. Now we think that these cartoons are so safe and so, rated G, but in reality, even in the cartoons, there's subliminal messages and a lot of incredible things that people never thought they'd even understand to see in a cartoon. I used to post these on Forbidden Knowledge all the time. A lot of sexual innuendos, a lot of very tricky ways of introducing ways to be to give deception, tell lies, sneaky, all these things, rob people, and how to be a scammer, all built into the cartoons. And so you have all this stuff going on. Then you have the institution we call the school system, which is set up like a prison system, and it robs you of all your creativity. It takes away and takes away all your ability to think for yourself and ask questions. And all of a sudden, it puts you in this, puts a box around your brain, and in that box is all you have. You're completely constrained. Your hands are tied behind your back. You can't do anything. And so between all of that first 7 years, we're putting ourselves in a position where we become actually prisoners on this planet of our own minds. And then not only are we the prisoners, we're also the prison guards. So as soon as someone tries to become independent, tries to ask questions, try to look at it alternative views, the others who were prisoners, they turn into prison guards and try to squash them. So we become our own worst enemies.
And it backs back down to when we get back into the aquatic ancient civilizations, spacecraft. I mean, it's almost, these things are sitting right in front of us. We got pyramids sitting there that been here for a very long time and been made by things or ways that we still don't have equipment to move rocks that big, but yet nobody really wants to explore. Not saying nobody, but the masses is not trying to go, really, let's just get curious. What is that? Why are they here? Oh, what happened to a whole civilization that just disappeared? They just left, and this, okay, we done with this thing. Let's just get out of here. What did they know? We don't know. And then, of course, you talk about Enki and Enlil. We talk about, the story with Noah and how the great floods and of course, they created this particular ark to save us. And I still wish they would have left one of those mosquitoes behind. Just one, right? Just out of all the stuff y'all want to bring in too, just leave one of them dang old mosquitoes behind, but they don't look at it that way, But all right, so you said it, the programming. And although now, do you feel that the government is now trying to desensitize or deprogram us slightly, since now they're trying to talk about UAPs? They want to talk about some of this stuff a little bit. Yeah, we hearing about aquatic things are popping up. It's like now we got technology and cameras everywhere. But the whole point is somebody's behind the scene with the strings, as the puppet masters are saying, now it's time for us to show these people a little more information. And why is that now? And, you know, is there something happening and coming?
Well, you know, they have fought every war they can possibly fight on this planet, pretty much. They've gone through every continent, every country where they want to bring democracy. So everywhere that we have brought democracy, it's nothing but a pile of dust rubble now. And so they've pretty much destroyed everything, wiped everyone out, and the object with the objective of bringing democracy, which really what meant translates into we need to create a war so that we can generate war revenues, which create billions of dollars in money for us. And so now that that's drying up, the next big money move is space. It's the next big thing. So you create the Space Force. Now, instead of sneaking and stealing the money from the American public, you can actually say, no, we're taking it because we have to put it towards these space programs. We can't tell you exactly what we're doing, but that's where it's going now. So don't ask us any more questions about where the money, now you know where it's going. It's going to the Space Force. And now they're going to take trillions of dollars and move that into these black budget space programs. They're not really black budget. What they are is they're contracted out to private corporations to build different types of techs and weapons that could potentially be used in space. But here's the caveat to that. There's a couple of tricks on how to make a lot of money doing this, and this is why they control the narrative. Okay. The first thing is, we're going to create this this new type of a spaceship, and we're going to need to start off with $15 billion. So this contract gets approved by the Pentagon for some private Lockheed or somebody else. They start creating and working. This is what they do with the actual warships. This is what they do, the warships and also the fighter jets. So they'll create this spaceship, a mock-up of it. It'll never really fly, and then every few years they'll come back and say, we didn't quite get it right this time. Send us another 20 billion. We might be able to get this thing working in another 3 years. They get the 20 more billion. Another 3 years go by. You know what? We just need another 15, 20 billion. Yep. It might just work this time. And now trust me, the people that approve these contracts, they know exactly what's going on because they're getting a little bit of juicy juice under the table for these stamps.
You know they are. Yeah.
And so this is what's happened. So they've got to control the narrative for that type of thing. The second reason is because since everybody has technology now, I mean, universities in third world countries are raising money and putting satellites up, and like India did. India sent a whole satellite to Mars for $3 million. That's peanuts. But NASA spends $100 billion to do the same exact thing. So they're going, oh man, we got to take control of this narrative because now anybody can get into space. Anybody can explore. Anybody can find out what's in the ocean. Anybody can see what's in our skies. Technology is becoming too vast and too easy to access and too cheap for anyone to get their hands on it. So what we're going to do is we're going to control the narrative. First thing we're going to do, we're going to strip away the name, the title, or the acronym UFO. We're going to strip that away because that has a bad connotation to it. So let's strip that away. Now to make it an official, if you're talking serious about these objects, these anomalies, you got to say UAP. If you don't say UAP, that means it's woo-woo. It's just, swamp dust and all this kind of balloons, and all this kind of stuff. But if you say UAP, now you got our attention. Now, so they're controlling the narrative by giving it its official name, its title. And now what they want to do is they want to direct the conversation. These things are dangerous. These things are a threat to military. These things are a threat to our nukes. These things are a threat to us and blah, blah, blah. So they can build up the anxiety and the fear. Now they're going to build that up. And then one day when they need $1 trillion or whatever they want to do, they can just snatch it and say, hey, we need to build a defense against these UAPs. Or maybe they'll take one that we developed, like a TR-3B, our own technology, call it a UAP, and have it shoot at one of our own ships, like they lied about the Gulf of Tonkin incident to create the Vietnamese War, which cost the lives of millions of people, but the people in the suits made billions of dollars. So maybe they'll make a fake war using our own technology. But again, you can't do that unless you control the narrative. So let's start telling them about, oh yeah, these things are real. They do exist. We don't know what they are. They move really fast, but they're UAPs, and we're creating a task force. We have to create this space force now. Oh, now next thing you know, we got to create We got to create space weapons. And the next thing you know, oh man, one of these things shot at us. Now we gotta go. We gotta bulk up. We gotta spend a few trillion now to get ready for a potential invasion. It's all a money-making scheme for these people.
And I'm with you 100%. I did a little investigation one day. I was just talking about following the money for space, right? And then I kind of ran across, and people can do this themselves, Morgan Stanley, which, you know, investment bankers, telling their whole organization, this was about a year ago, the new space economy. And it's still on their website now. I went on and pulled it up, and they're talking about how it is a $300 billion thing. And then in 2040, it's going to be $1 trillion industry, the space industry. Yes. And you're thinking about, it's like, how are they putting the money in there? Well, they're going to do that. So they're talking about satellite. They're talking about that's one of the new driver, deep space explorations. So they're telling their investors, invest in companies that's doing that. So hint everybody else, right? And lunar landing. So they're saying these companies are focused on the Earth, Moon, which I don't think they're going to be going there, right? Earth's observations, asteroid mining. This is supposed to be something huge that's coming up. And space debris. So obviously we got enough stuff floating around that they need to put money, and people can start a space debris company. Space tourism. We already seeing them now building these zero gravity airplanes and testing this stuff. And now pretty soon you see pictures of hotels that's in space, you know, that's coming out. And so all of these things is kind of like, okay, wait a minute. So goes back to what you said. All right, they're putting the narrative out there that we need to fear something that's been around eons of years and ain't bothered us yet. Mm-hmm. You're right. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
We know they there. They came out of the water and did nothing. Oh, right. We know they've been flying around. They've been flying around because we got ancient pyramids drawing sculptures of aircrafts back in the day, right? Yep. Okay, we got all of this stuff. Ain't nothing happened in billions of light years. Right. But yet now we at a time like we got to protect ourselves. There's something up there, and we got to do this, and all it is just funneling the money. Wow. And they done ran out of land to buy, so space is wide open. Yeah. Right. And so whoever get to Mars first is going to claim that they own it all. You know, we seen the movies. What's that? Dennis Quaid movie or whatever it was. Arnold Schwarzenegger played in. They did a
Total Recall.
And they charging for oxygen, and just like now they found a way. But then what happened? There was some alien thing in the mountain that created free oxygen that the alien technology already had. But no, they wanted to protect that like the biggest secret of all day long. So it's like the stuff just keep on coming. So where do we go as a community and civilizations? How do we, outside of listening to knowledge from you and people like you, and then of course I kind of do more of I don't do more of the nuts and bolts. I just kind of get people to think. I kind of add this other humor to it because we just take this thing so serious these days. You know, I mean, people just, and although it is some cases some serious matter, where do people go from here if we begin to now accustom ourselves? Because one of the things I tell people all the time, Billy, and I said, well, I wanted to start this telescope nonprofit group, and I wanted to give telescopes, especially in underprivileged communities, not to be tomorrow's astronauts, because pretty soon you don't need to be an astronaut to go in space. I mean, you can just like we get on a bus, you're gonna be able to do that. But to awaken the children's possibility to something else is out there, because I think that there's these parents who closes off this phenomenon. Okay, they close off that don't, and for whether religious lenses or whatever reasons they want to put a cultural lens on it. But our children of tomorrow, this is going to be the norm. Everything is moving space. So what is the problem with some of these parents cutting off the kids mentally from preparing them for the future, which is going to be their normal, where you're going to have a group of civilization that can't even function because they've been, like you said, bred since 7, the whole, not bred, but you know what I mean, the whole thing, the design to not comprehend things are bigger than just this planet, right? Yeah. How do we, if anybody was listening, where should they start? How can they begin the process of saying, wait a minute, I need to introduce the next generation to all of this? How do they do that?
Yeah, it's interesting. And one of the things that I've really targeted my entire company is I'm primarily going after younger people, the younger generation. Now, I do have a vast array of different ages of people that follow my information, but my primary target is the younger generation. That's why I say things the way I say them. That's why I use a lot of shock factor. And that's why I do the music and everything else. The younger generation is who I'm interested in, because that is literally the future, right? And so, I mean, I've already lived half my lifespan. I'm on the backside of living right now in this third density. And a lot of the people that have been following this movement and being involved in this community for some time are also getting either at the backside of this whole life in this dimension or getting there. And so the kids, the younger generation, those are the people that we have to go after. And one of the things I've seen is that when a tree is young, the limbs are easier to bend when it's like a young sapling. But once that tree gets deep rooted and old, you try to bend the limb, it snaps. And so even though they've gone through a lot of that 7-year programming, they're still a little bit more flexible than the older generation. And the reason why the parents tend to try to hold them back is because the parents have a belief system that tells them if they ask any questions, they look anywhere else, if they believe any other thing, that they're bound to damnation and eternal fire and all these other crazy things. But the younger generation, their ears are wide open, and they're open to hear and try to even conceive and understand and even spread and share this information. And so that's why, you know, we have to target them. And all we can do as a community is continue to look for, work with, and honor the younger generation. Don't look at the way they dress. Don't look at the way that they act in some cases. Because remember, we were all young. We all did dumb stuff when we were young. Every single one of us. Some of us are still doing dumb stuff.
Still acting young, right? Yeah.
Yeah. But we have to work with them. We have to talk to them. We have to find ways to communicate with them on the level that they can understand, and try to bring them to this knowledge, not to force it down their throat like their parents forced other things down their throat, but to bring them to an understanding where, hey, let's ask some questions and get them asking questions so they can become their own researchers.
You know, you really point out something that, you know, I've been criticized a few times on the way sometimes I want to deliver information. And little did they know, you and I follow the same philosophy when it comes down to talking and communicating with the younger generation, because it is them who don't know the past. What they hear today is what they see, especially when it comes down to the UFOs. They may know, okay, some of the stories of Roswell, some of the bigger things. But when it comes down to all of those old stories that was big yesterday and that's not talked about today, and then at the same time, when you're delivering that information, and this is why I came into this scene and saying, wait a minute, let's not be so serious, because the people that's older are still, man, this is serious. I've seen quotes and posts on comments on some of the videos I did here. Oh, this is serious. I'm like, no, dude, hold on a minute. These young people see the world totally different. In fact, they see it so different that if there was some apocalypse where zombies was walking around, most of us is going to go and hide and get it. These kids going to get Hot Pockets. They're going to go get in the back of a pickup truck and just pop these things, because they're doing it with video games anyway. This is their life. This is a joke to them. They're gonna save the world anyway, while we're sitting here panicking about the zombies. And oh yeah, we're gonna get into the game. I'm a arm carrying licensed individual, but yeah, we're gonna go out there and hit one of them in the chest, and the kids going, no, Rod, that's wrong. Headshot. You know, they know the drill. Yeah. And they are tomorrow's leaders, and this is why we have so much of this congressional hearing coming out, because we do have young people that are now sitting in these political positions. They are curious. They do want to know, because the old school people ain't playing with this. They're not going to play with this thing at all. And so when you come back to educating them, this is how, when I do some of the shows, you know, I just stick to the bottom, making sure then I tie it into the past with curiosity, the why questions, because it's the young people to get them to be curious, and they're already curious. And now they're not religious, they're spiritual, most of them. And so now they're and they don't trust most of all this other crap out here anyway. And so now it's like, okay, let me just push them over the edge to say, okay, wait a minute, I didn't think about it that way. Let me go look into this thing about these underwater creatures now. Okay, they're bigger than just aliens. Oh, there's more than all of this. Because again, if they go with the narratives that we've already had and what most of us carry, they will not be prepared for the future. Right. If some of these parents cut them off from their curiosity, is the whole thing, I would say, from there. And so I'm not going to hold you too much longer, but I do have a couple of more things for you. Now, now we're going to shift focus now. Most people think that disclosure in UFOs is about to come. Now, my personal opinion, the game doesn't change. They just change the rules, and the game was not to give nothing up, and they're not going to do that, right? Do you think that we are getting close to disclosure as opposed to us saying, hey, we know about this particular thing. Now, y'all need to tell us, here's a FOIA Act. And of course, they put it in the private sector. That's not going to happen. Versus them opening up the doors and say, these are all the things y'all don't know about because y'all didn't ask. Yeah. You want disclosure, here it is. And then one more part of that disclosure, you remember recently they had the FAA audio that came out that they was talking, the planes were talking about seeing UAPs in the sky, right? Yeah. And this is, and I think John Greenwald released this. Now, when we think about disclosure once again, how many people, Billy, do you think want to get off that airplane and be handed a sheet of paper as they're getting ready to get their baggage that said, by the way, we just had a UFO encounter and it cut off some of the instrument panel, but you lived. It was a great flight. And then the people getting on the next flight, oh, by the way, the last flight had a UFO encounter. We're going back the same route. We might see them again. They cut off some of the instrument panel, but the plane didn't crash. So that makes it a good flight. Right. Is that disclosure? Is that what they really after?
Yeah. It's really interesting. It's always they want to hit you with the fear factor, and they want to also hit you with the fact that they have these big question marks. They never can answer a direct answer. They can never give you a direct answer on the question. They always give you these evasive questions, evasive answers, and never directly answer the question. If you go and say, hey, are UFOs real? They're going to start hemming and hawing and giving you this indirect UAP / where it's a phenomenon and we're trying to figure. They're never going to just say either yes or no. And so the real disclosure is coming from people like you, me, and many others in the community that continue to work, research, study, travel, and continue to have the bravery, literally the bravery it takes to keep talking up, speaking up, and bringing forth the information in the ways that we do. So one person mentioned, if you want to get to the kids, you got to get on TikTok. I got almost 1 million followers just on TikTok. My TikTok is incredible right now. And that is the younger generation. And so we just got to keep on finding ways to navigate this matrix ourselves and bring disclosure ourselves, because they're never going to bring us the real disclosure, because they would have to then admit that they've been lying for the last couple 100 years. And I don't think they really, really want to do that. And so since they're not going to do that, we have to then bring the disclosure ourselves. And then when it's the 100th monkey effect, when 100 people accept the information, then it becomes like a snowball rolling down the hill, and it then eventually becomes common accepted knowledge. Because in the 100th monkey effect, one monkey started washing his food in the river, and another one saw that out of the whole group and started trying to do it. And then over time, the scientists kept tracking how many more monkeys were learning how to wash their food like this. Over time, it took about 100 monkeys. When they got to the 100th monkey, guess what happened? The other monkeys simultaneously, not only in one continent, but even in a separate continent divided by an ocean, all started washing their food the same exact way, because the consciousness is connected through an invisible web, just like the Hopi prophecies talked about. And so when we get to that point, that's when we will reach this global sensation of acceptance with what's going on. And when that happens, with the understanding of real disclosure, in other words, understanding that these beings, these UAPs, USOs, underwater life, space life, multiple types of life forms exist, then we will come together and we will stop doing all this divide and conquer garbage. and we'll do one simple thing. We will just say no. We will stop playing their game. And when we stop playing their game, their time is up, and it's time for a new paradigm to occur, to take place on this planet. One that is totally different, economic system that's totally different, political system gone, religious systems gone. A totally new way of living will happen on this planet. And then and only then will we be considered mature enough to then openly have contact with these beings in a way that, just like me and you walking outside of the house and walking down the street. So it's going to take a little bit more time, but we're getting there.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of moving parts to that. And you just brought it up, especially when it comes down to those monkeys and the story of tapping into what I call the internet of consciousness. You know, just like we can get online and get stuff from China through the internet, the same thing, our consciousness, plug it into somebody else's in China. And I do that a lot. I actually kind of meditate to find out if there's somebody in China that got the knowledge of what I need. How can I get to his inner CEO to make a deal with my CEO to get me the information, right? So I do that a lot, and just pretty much, and I think it's something that it's all collective. And I think as we look at the conversation that began tonight of what's in our waters, the conversation of what's in our space, and the conversations of where we are today was a hidden agenda that I had, and of course you just put it all together. That, wait a minute, these are all could be different civilizations, different people, different, but we're all connected through something, this one area. And there will be a point that whatever disconnected us in the past, where the water creatures went to the water and we stayed up here and they went into space, and the people that left the planet left and went somewhere else, and all whatever divided it is soon to be coming back, right? And I don't know if it's that 12th planet they be talking about, but now I heard that was more destructive, at this point. But the whole point is there's going to be a point where we are going to be reconnected. And are we ready for it? Or are people ready to have their minds open to the possibility that this may be just one matrix and we're all in it, serving our own computer parts of it? But at the end of the day, this thing gets really deep. And Billy, I just really thank you for being here tonight, and at the same time, once again, just taking the time out to being a person that is leading. I say you're one of the leaders of it. You have taken this thing to a whole nother level, and especially because I hold the fours, right? I hold the fours, yeah. And I did that one day. I was taking a picture and somebody like, what is that? Don't worry, you'll find out. He's like, oh, why you got it down this way in your pocket? No, that's a whole different other meaning. We this way, baby. So it's just one of the deals of really putting it out there, man. And again, I appreciate you having me in the films, being here with you and Elizabeth, and just talking to y'all behind the scenes. People don't have a clue to the vision and the things that you have already put into play. And I just tell people, stick around. The best is yet to come, when it deals with forbidden knowledge. And so I'm just excited about that. And of course, me having my 5K journey and trying to get to 5,000 subscribers was just a dream, and I know you was like, hey man, we'll get you there.
We're going to get you there, man. Everybody got to subscribe to Why the Big Secret on YouTube. Roderick Martin. Go ahead and sign up now. Subscribe now.
Yeah. So we almost there, and pretty much. So what's next for you, and what you got going on for people to do? I can't wait to us to put on some type of new conference, and we can do something here in Dallas. I know we talked about it or something, but what's next? What should people expect that's coming down the pipeline? We'll give them a sneak preview.
Yeah. Well, I'm setting up the Forbidden World Tour right now. I'm in the process of setting that up, the Forbidden World Tour. Going to hit some states in the U.S., also in Europe, and potentially in India, and maybe in Africa as well. So all that's being set up right now, the Forbidden World Tour 2023. We're also going to host a Forbidden Conscious Awards in 2023. We're just waiting to lock down the venue. We're working on that right now. It's going to be just like on the same level as the Oscars. And we're going to start awarding people in this community that have been busting their tails, working for scraps, spending their own money to get things done. As you know, that's how we do, Roderick.
Oh my God, yeah.
And, we spend everything we got. We give everything we got for years. And so, people who put this out, we're going to have the people, though, the community is going to help vote for nominees. And then also ultimately, once the nominees are selected, they're going to help vote for the actual winners of those categories. There'll be multiple categories, everything from podcasts and radio to activism, to philanthropy, to influencer. I mean, all these different categories that we have, we're going to be offering, up all these different categories and creating the Conscious Award. So I'm looking forward to that. And also just, again, taking forbidden knowledge to NASDAQ. Right now, forbidden knowledge is we're in round 2. Round 2 ends, I think, in 20 days for people that want to invest in shares on forbidden knowledge. Just go to forbiddenknowledge.com. 20 days left to invest and get shares. We're uplisting to a Reggae Plus in a few weeks. And then after that, in first quarter of 2023, we are uplisting to NASDAQ, which is going to be an amazing opportunity for a lot of people that own shares of forbidden knowledge. So a lot of big stuff on the horizon, man. A lot of big stuff.
This is where you just get that applause, and and I could give the ching sign for some of these people because it's nothing that you got that Midas touch. Everything you touch turn to gold, and why not, right? Gold signifies wealth and everything else, man. I have a couple of my crew members I'm gonna bring up just to say hello to you, and then we'll get you on out of here.
Right.
Because we're gonna have our little discussion, about 10 minutes of a little panel here. This is Mateo, and then this is Rob G. So y'all meet the greatness of Billy and
Nice to meet y'all.
Hey, Billy,
Yeah.
very
Yes,
nice
sir.
to meet you too. It's
Nice
quite
to
the
meet you,
honor.
too. Exactly. Sitting backstage
Same,
listening
man.
to a lot of that
Appreciate
Billy Carson goodness, man. I had to unsubscribe and resubscribe again real quick, man. You speaking the truth out there.
Thanks, man.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, man. I appreciate you. Thank you so much.
all right, Billy,
Sir.
say hello to Elizabeth for me, and we'll be back down there and let y'all know he does everything first class. So when he picked me up the last time from the airport, it was a Rolls Royce with a chauffeur, and I took the long route. The guy said, which way? And I said, stop at the store over there too, so I can just get out of the car. And Junior, man, he made it all look good. He's a great guy, man. He's like, okay, I'm gonna make you look good. I'm gonna make you look good. So it was all good. But anyway, man, appreciate you. See you soon, and we'll talk. Thank you for coming up tonight.
Thank you, guys. Have a good rest of the
Yeah,
night.
take care.
Peace.
Billy.
Appreciate
All
it,
right.
man. Take care.
All right, guys. So that was Billy. You guys know him, but one of the things we're just going to talk just a little bit and get out of here in about 5 minutes. But underwater, you guys have been paying a close attention to it. So Mateo, I'll start with you first. UAPs underwater. Now, as you heard the show, and I deliberately went this route because I know people was expecting me to talk about these bases. I'm like, no, guys. We know about that. There's something else in the water that ain't aliens. Okay. And so what do you guys think about that for a few moments? And like I say, for the audience, we'll be out of here in about 5 minutes. So y'all hang around. Go ahead.
Oh, I'll start first, Rob. I think you hit the nail on the head, Roderick. It's not about what we already know. It's what we don't know. And the ocean, as Billy was talking about, the vastness, and you were talking about it. Why aren't we going to look? I mean, come on, people. This isn't that hard. We have the equipment to do it. And I wanted to ask, Catalina Island, it's only 4,000 feet deep. It's not like Marianas Trench where you got to have 36,000 feet or whatever the heck it is. You can't, that takes special equipment. It's not hard. And it's right there next to a Navy base. So yes, there is clearly something going on where they are deliberately not doing this. And so they're deliberately not investigating it further. And that's what you were trying to get across. And I agree, because it's not that hard. And we could already know. That's my take.
Yeah, and like I said, I usually try to twist things up and get people to think differently because, yeah, okay, I'm a UFO investigator. I do that for a living. This is what I do. I'm here in Dallas, Texas, and this is where I live. And I do it every day, all day. I'm looking at photos and videos. No, wait, whoa. That is just the small potatoes of this thing. But if people are not paying a close attention to, there is this aquatic life form that looks like us, that is living in the water without technology of oxygen and air pumps and all these things, right? Then, of course, we're focusing on UFOs traveling in and out. They're just visiting. They're visiting. So we got a lot of levels. So, Rob, what do you think about that?
Where do we start with that? I mean, I just want to paint this picture real quick. I mean, if you think about it, just like when you started the show, you have 30% of the earth is land, and we inhabit that. And we don't even cover all of this, but we have 8 billion people covering 30% of land. So if you think about 70% of water and what that could equate to as far as entities, if they are living there, which it sounds like they might be, even if you talked about 1% of 1% of 1%, you still come up with like 8,000 entities potentially out there in the waters. So when you look at that and think about that, it's more than just one or two here or there, or a fleet of 6 that they saw go into the water or come out of the water. This thing might actually be a lot bigger than we are really even perceiving it to be. Like when you really do those numbers and think about it, it gets kind of scary. I mean, to Mateo's point, when you talk about Catalina Island, I'm about 100 miles from there myself right now, and if they're actually about, I want to say like 20 miles away from Los Angeles, Catalina Island. So is that a strategic position for UAP? Or are they the same way we have our subs out there in the oceans, strategically placed off of the coast of some of our adversaries as a strategic position? Is Catalina Island a strategic position for UAP? Think about it.
Yeah, and that's just one of those things. And I think that we know that, and of course, under radar basis, we've seen the movie The Abyss. I think a lot of you have watched that, to where that was a good way of saying, hey, they're living there. And of course, I never understood why they couldn't stop their own nuclear weapon themselves that dropped there. But the whole point is just knowing, and all of these movies showing these life forms and extraterrestrial spacecrafts, and like you said before, Catalina Island, all of this stuff is there, but we don't go looking for that. We spend so much money going off the planet looking there, and I think it'll be so simple to create something with all this billions of dollars that'll drop down there and turn on the lights. And boy, what will we find out if that truly happens in this day of time? And I don't think people really seriously understand the fact of that. And so just reading some of the comments here tonight, want to thank some of you for some of the kind words. And then, of course, I see a few who are not thrilled with some of the conversation, and we get that, right? And and I'm not here to tell you the philosophy of things. Billy does a great job of giving us the knowledge of all that. In fact, that's who I subscribe to, and that's who I listen to. My job, again, is to provide you enough information to awaken your curiosity to the possibility to think why on a lot of this stuff, and get beyond the point of just saying, okay, this is that, because there is a whole level of game going on, and it is just changed. These people are getting real. The government is changing it, or the big secret keepers. The money is moving right before our eyes behind all of this. And so we're so focused on that stuff. They are now moving new money towards space, like Billy said in the comments earlier, where they are just changing the narrative to move the money game somewhere else. And we're still over here worried about the obvious. We know we're not alone here. We know there's enough things happening. We got to get in another game, folks. We got to move over to the new game of what they're playing, and that is this sham of what's really happening. And Millie was just talking about that. So, Mateo, I appreciate you coming on tonight. Rob, we're going to get the audience out of here. as I said, and pretty much get them guys going. Okay.
Great. No,
All right,
thanks
take
for letting
care.
us
Thank
meet
you.
Billy.
All right. All right. So there you have it, everyone. We're getting ready to shut the show down. I want to thank each and every one of you. And hopefully tonight you just saw things a little different. Be here next Tuesday. But also, if you have an opportunity, if you find any value, a few of you or all of you, whoever, go over to Why the Big Secret, subscribe to the channel. And the podcast is everywhere as well. But we'll be back. I got a few people that we're going to bring here next Tuesday that you're really going to be really profound. We'll probably put that out. Billy will probably post that for you to know that we're going to be interviewing a few people. So definitely stick around next week, Tuesday night, same time, 8 o'clock. And just come and get a little more. Just come and get a different taste of what's happening in this phenomena, as opposed to the nuts and bolts, in which you're okay to get that. And I will weave that in for you. But I'm definitely going to awaken your curiosity. I'm going to give you some things to think about that a lot of people are not putting two to two together when it comes down to this, and for there as well. So in the meantime, I want to thank each and every one of you for being here. I'm Roderick Martin from Why the Big Secret, UFO investigator with MUFON as well. Also, if you have an opportunity, go to Discovery Channel and check out Alien Endgame. I host a part of a TV show there, of course, with Billy Carson's Black Knight Satellite, which is the Beyond the Signal, which is one of the best. Check that out as well. And then there's Fox Tubi, a new one that just came out, Aliens, Abductions, and Roswell 75. I'm definitely in that particular show as well. Gaia have a couple of shows that's getting ready to come out with George Norrie on Beyond Belief. And then there's another show called Open Minds that I go and film next month. And then a couple of episode stuff that's coming out on Forbidden Knowledge and a few other big projects as well. And I'm just sharing that to say that there's a lot of movement in this, and I appreciate each and every one of you for supporting me, because it is a challenge being in this particular space, not only taking the blows from our own community I get, just because I handle some of the subject matters differently, but also in the other side of everything, and it gets pretty tough. But at the end of the day, I'm here to get you the information as well. So in the meantime, it's been a plum pleasing pleasure, as well as a privilege. Much love to each and every one of you tonight.